Hey guys, welcome back. So Unit 8 is going to be all about conic sections. We're going to take a look at 4 different conics: the circles, the ellipses, the hyperbolas, and the parabolas. Talk about how to write their equations, talk about how to graph them, stuff like that. So first up is the circles. So the standard equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The center is defined at h and k, and then our value of r is the square root of r squared. So typically it'll be written as like a number that will equal like 16. So you take the square of that, and that tells you what the value of r is. Or when writing it, you'll take r and square it to write your equation. So there's 3 different types of equations writing that we'll be doing with the circles. I'm going to give you the center and the radius. So the center tells you h and k, and the radius obviously tells us r. We just fill into our formula, so it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So you're going to find that the expression is always going to be the opposite sign of the number. So h was negative 8, that's why it's x plus 8. K was positive 12, that's why it's y minus 12. And as for the r squared, you're just squaring the number. So if it was just 4, 4 squared is just 16. When it's 4 radical 3, we have to remember squaring that means we're squaring 4 and we're squaring radical 3. So it'd be 16 times 3, which is 48. And there's our equation. Nothing fancy to it, very straightforward if you're given center and radius. Now the other example is you'll be given other information. So for example, center and a point. So the center is 9, negative 2, so our equation would be x minus 9 squared and y plus 2 squared, filling in the h and k part of that. But since we don't know the radius, that's still r squared. Now, we can find the radius using this point, because the point, if the center is h and k, the point represents x and y. So we just fill in 1 for x and negative 5 for y, and we work out what is r squared. So we get negative 8 squared plus negative 3 squared, 64 plus 9, and we get 73 for r squared. Now, to write the equation, we just need to know what the value of r squared is. We don't need the actual radius. So I don't need to square root that. I can just simply rewrite my equation, x minus 9 squared, y plus 2 squared equals 73. And that's all we have to do there when working with center and our point. Third option is where we're given the ends of a diameter and asked to write the equation for that. So now we are not given center and we're not given the radius either. So finding the center, well, if we have the ends of the diameter, the center is the midpoint of those 2 ends. So our center, we do our midpoint formula where we just add the negative 11 and negative 14 together and we divide by 2, negative 5 and negative 11, and we divide by 2. So doing that gives us our center to be a negative 25 halves, a negative 16 halves, which gives us, well, can't do anything about the negative 25 halves, but negative 16 halves is just negative 8. So sometimes because we're doing a midpoint, you're still going to get a fraction there. That's okay. Other times it'll give you obviously an integer and you'll substitute in that way. And from this point, now it's the same as the previous example. We've got center and a point. We just pick one of those 2 ends of the diameter to fill in for x and y. We fill in the h and k for the center, and we solve for the r squared. So I'm going to use the negative 14, negative 11, just because. So it's negative 14 plus 25 halves squared, negative 11 plus 8 squared. Remember, it's always the opposite sign for the center portion. That's why it's plus 25 halves and plus 8s. The negative 14 plus 25 halves is going to give us a negative 3 halves. We get negative 3 here. So that's 9/4 plus 9, which 9 would really be 36 over 4, so that's 45 over 4 for r squared. And again, we don't really need r, we just need the value of r squared. So our equation would be x plus 25 halves squared, y plus 8 squared equals 45/4. And those are our 3 main types of writing equations given information about the circle: center, radius, points on the circle, endpoints of the diameter, stuff like that. We also will be asked to graph these equations. Now, we're asked to graph this circle right here. It's given to us in its what's called the general conic section format. This is not in our standard format of the x minus 8 squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we have to put it in that format first. And the way we do that is we complete the square. Now, if you have to review the idea of completing the square, refer back to one of the Unit 2 videos. I believe it was 2.2 that we talked about completing the square. So the idea is we're going to group the x's together. We're going to find that perfect number we want. We're going to group the y's together, find that perfect number we want, and we're going to move the constant term over. So we're going to add 3 to the other side. And again, completing the square, we take half the middle term and we square it. So for the 4, half of 4 squared would be 2 squared, which is 4. And to balance, I put a plus 4 there, I put a plus 4 on the right. As for the y, we'd have a negative 6 over 2 squared, negative 3 squared, which is 9. So I put a 9 over there as well. That allows me to rewrite the x squared plus 4x plus 4 as x plus 2 squared, because it's a perfect square expression now. And then y minus 3 squared, and then 3 plus 4 plus 9 is going to give us 16. So now that we have it into our standard format, now we can identify our center, which is going to be negative 2, 3, and our radius, the square root of 16, which is 4. And that's all we need to do to make the graph of the circle. So we can just go ahead and we plot our center, negative 2, 3, right there. And the way we're going to create our circle, if the radius is 4, that means the distance from the center to the edge of the circle is a distance of 4. Now, going on a slant, that would be kind of difficult to show that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go up and down, left and right 4 spaces to show the vertical and horizontal points that are 4 away from that center. And then from there, we're just going to do the best job we possibly can to create a circle. Don't drive yourself nuts over it. I mean, obviously make sure it looks like it's curved. So like that right there is obviously not a perfect circle, but it's a decent enough one that it's not going to cause any problems. No one's going to be like, well, that doesn't look like anything at all. So you're perfectly fine there. Obviously, there are different tools you can use to draw perfect circles. A compass is one of them, but that's kind of up to you. I would never care enough to take off points if it looks like that kind of thing. All right, so that's our circle. That's all we're doing. The circle is a very straightforward and basic shape. There's not a lot going on to it. There's not a lot of different elements to create the shape for it. It's just simply a matter of finding center and radius and putting that together. The other shapes will require a little bit more work, a little more information. So we'll take a look at those next. And I'll see you guys next time.